So I want to jump in right away. We're going to get an action-packed question. For the three of you, you can start individually. Where were the fiercest gunfights? What were the fiercest combat you guys ever saw? Iraq, Afghanistan, take it away. Who wants to start?
Afghanistan, for sure, for me.
Yeah. Well, you go first, Bob. Yeah.
Yeah, Afghanistan, without a doubt. I think Iraq was cooler hits, but Afghanistan was where the gunfighting was. Al-Qaeda basically became big pussies in Iraq. So, like, we'd come on target, and they knew if they came out with their hands up, we had to arrest them, basically, you know. Afghanistan, like, especially with the Taliban, them motherfuckers were fighters. So every target we went on with Taliban, you knew you were getting a gunfight, pretty much. So Afghanistan was the place to be.
Yeah, so for me, I agree to a certain extent, but there's also the early days of Iraq were pretty badass.
Yeah, I missed. You had like the first 2 years before me, so I missed out on that.
Yeah, so I hit that perfect. I mean, I hit Afghanistan. I think I was on the third ODA put into Afghanistan, so I know what Bob's saying there too. But I definitely had a good time in early Iraq with the
well, yeah, I mean, and I'll agree, like the hits were way better in Iraq.
Yeah.
Would you say the fighters in Afghanistan were better than they were in Iraq?
Yeah, probably. Yeah.
So that's what I thought too. It just
for me, I freaking hate Afghanistan. I mean, there was some good gunfights in Afghanistan, but it was always like few and far between, right? Like, but go back to like 2006, Baghdad, Yusufia. I mean, we would go out and get in a gunfight every night. So that was, the surge happened in 2005. All of the AQ guys got pushed out of Baghdad, and they all went to Yusufia.
Yeah.
And we counted on a 90-day rotation. We would count the nights we didn't get the gunfight, and it was usually, less than 20.
But see, I agree. Now, I also agree. So I got into way more gunfights in Iraq, but where I feared for my life maybe a little bit more was maybe Afghanistan. Like I was giggling in Iraq, like having a good old time. Afghanistan was like,
dive into that. So what's the difference in fear there? Why are you more fearful in Afghanistan compared to Iraq? Is it because the Taliban were better fighters or what?
I think it was a little bit of everything. So it was a little bit of that, right? And it was a little bit of distance. So everything, it was a little bit more sketchy in Afghanistan, right? Because distances were greater. You didn't have as much support, right? So there are a multitude of factors. I did a lot of daylight stuff in Iraq, so it made it fun, the nighttime stuff, it obviously it gets a little bit more, it was sketchy, obviously everything under nods and everything, but I can see it from both fields of view for sure.
I would say that, like the Afghanistan thing, you were always going to somewhere remote, and it was more like a village of assholes coming after you, or several compounds of assholes coming after you. Whereas in Iraq, you're going
like a house
somewhere rural or something like that. Yeah. Most of the people around are just sitting in their house hoping you don't come in and kick them in the face. So it was. I think that was the bigger thing with Afghanistan was the outside threat when you were on target, which wasn't as big of a concern in Iraq.
Well, to your point about guys hoping you just don't kick them in the face when it comes to the door. How difficult is it when you're in a country like Iraq or Afghanistan, wherever it might be, where you're not fighting uniformed soldiers, right? Like they don't look like the Germans in World War II. How many split decisions are you guys making to determine who's friendly and who's a bad guy trying to take you out?
Oof. Well, that is the question, right? So,
all the time.
Yeah, all the time, right? That's the answer. I mean, I got shot up in 2007, right? And it was from a guy who was dressed up as a woman. So in full head to toe, woman garb, right? So it was kind of at that time where
they got shot because he was checking them out.
Shut your mouth, Bob. Shut your mouth. There's no such thing going on.
I'm just kidding.
So up until that point, you know, they kind of changed the ROE on us. You know, we did a lot of self internally. You know, we checked all the people on target by ourselves and all that stuff. Well, obviously, you know, there were some issues with that. That came up, us searching women. So then that became a no. And then hence the men started dressing up in women, right? Because that's what they do, is they come up with the next best answer to beat the Americans. And yeah, so it bit me in the ass. And that was kind of the first time we had seen it anywhere over there up until that point. So yeah, I mean, it's always a big thing for sure.
Where were you hit when you got shot?
So I got it through the left forearm, and then I think it was the same bullet. The way I was angled, I think it went through my left forearm, and then it went into my left, like the left side of my gut, the left flank, I guess is the actual medical term. But
well, he got another guy right next to him too.
Yeah, and then my team leader got shot right through his trap. So perfect.
The only reason you got shot was because you were standing next to him.
Yeah, exactly. He's bad luck. He's a bad luck for him.
Now, did you know right away when you got hit that you'd been shot? Because I've seen some interviews where people are like, it took me a few seconds to recognize I'd been hit.
Nah, so here's the deal.
What did you say when you got shot?
Man, I yelled "fuck" pretty loud. I'll tell you that. But I lit our element up, and it was that, you know, we had hit a few buildings. You know, that's how it always is, right? We had already hit our primary building. We had already hit a couple follow-ons. So this is like the freaking fourth building we were hitting, you know. But I let up, and I knew I had my laser on this because ISR was saying it was a woman out there, and it looked like a decrepit old woman all hunched over. And I had my laser, and I was checking, and that dude turned his head, and I could see that 5 o'clock shadow, and I knew, shit, I was behind the power curve right there. And he just he had an AK under that dress and just dumped the whole magazine out.
Holy shit.
But I knew I got shot. I knew it.
Okay. And I'm assuming someone put that guy down immediately, right?
Yeah, we all did. Yeah.
That's a lot. So what about you, Nate? What's your experience when it comes to identifying those people who they could be dressed like civilians? Well, like, how difficult is that?
I mean, you know, there's the obvious easy case where they got a gun, right? But you know, that was probably a minority of the situations that were put in, you know, where we can actually see the gun or see what you, you know, some sort of threat. And I think it's just it's a culmination of experiences and kind of sensing that, you know, something's wrong. Like, this person isn't acting correctly. This person isn't doing this or that. You know, I remember, I think it was 2007, saw this guy pop out of a courtyard, you know, a couple houses down while we were in Iraq. And it looked like he had like the boxing, like, diaper, you know, that big padded boxing diaper. Looked like he was wearing that under his man jammies. And I'm like, did you guys see that? And I was like, no, I didn't see anything. He popped back out and I shot him because I was positive he had a bomb on, like, you know, bomb underwear. And ended up he did, right? And so it was the right call, but it's just one of those things that, like, if that had happened to me in 2003, we probably would have gotten IED. You know what I mean? Because it was just that he was acting funny. I could tell there was something under his clothes. When he came back out, started coming towards us, like, I knew something was wrong, you know? So it was really hard in a lot of those situations to make that call. And it's just a matter of seeing things over and over and over again, I think.